Hello, welcome to my vlog. Today I'm going to be talking about my use of sound effects and basically the feel I was trying to go for. So in a lot of action films you'll find that the sound effects are usually quite different. It usually depends on what kind of vibe or style the film's going to be, whether it's going to be realistic, comedic and stuff like that. Something I've noticed in a lot of comedic films, the punches are a lot more of a kind of a bit of a unrealistic punch sound. You know, the very stereotypical, like, kind of that sounds more like a whip, but you know what I'm trying to say. There's a more stereotypical punch sound that's used in a lot of films, especially old ones. And I find that you see and hear you hear that noise more so in comedic films. Now, let's say for an action film that's realistic and it's trying to come across as real and as intense as possible, the sound effects are a lot more realistic, a lot more oomph and a bit more bass to the sound. There's not a lot of the kind of comedic and very comical, should I say, sounds that are used in maybe comedic films. Now, for my film, it starts off a bit funny. Like, the fight is kind of brought on by an overreaction because of something that happened. So it's kind of like something that makes people go, haha, and then it's like, oh Christ, this is getting serious. So it's like, the sound effects that I used, like, they're realistic. Like, I always try and go for a real vibe, and like I made sure I paid great attention to detail when I was like, Ethan's jacket moves around a lot in the film, so I was like, right, I'm gonna analyze that and basically match sound effects to it and layer them properly to make it sound and look as authentic and real as possible. And basically, there's like, for example, there's a scene when he punches Damien in the throat, and the noise that you get from that is more of a sucker punch, kind of like it's a bit more like there's like a crunch there, just a little bit, but you hear like a little smack as well. And then obviously Damien coughs like the second he gets punched, and I feel like that was obviously, it helped. I think it came across quite realistic, because basically if you were to get punched in the stomach, for example, you won't really have that smacking kind of like clunk sound that you get in the throat. It's more of a it's a bit more of a deep, low, bassy sound, and that's something you see later on in the film. Basically, as like different moves and different parts of the body are hit, like you hear different sounds. Like, I smack Ethan in the face with this part of my arm, and you hear like a bit of a more of that. And there's another part where he turns around and kicks me in the gut. And you hear more of the bassy sounds. But then later on in the film, there's a part where, then this is what ends the film, he like stomps into my head, basically, and it's like a first-person camera angle. I'm looking at his foot, and it goes bam, and you hear the low kind of like the sound you'd get from a heel. Basically, it's going to be very low pitched, very bassy, and basically, because my head is obviously made of bone and I'm on concrete as well, which the audience would know from like the previous shots where it showed me like kind of crawling on the floor and stuff. Basically, when he hits my head, you hear the punch kind of sound, like you hear the impact, but then you hear the crunch of maybe, let's say, the bone, or the fleshy parts, and they're like, you hear the and then you got like a if you hear it properly, you'll see what I mean. But I paid a lot of attention into making it sound as realistic and very impactful as possible, if that's the right word. But yeah, a lot of people really loved the sound effects that I did. I showed my peers in class like I did with the colour grading, and they were all impressed with it. So yeah, I've still got a bit more to do with the sound effects, more to add and that. I definitely believe doing the sound effects is my favourite part, and I definitely think out of making a fight scene, the sound effects are probably the second, if not first, best part. So, yeah, it's been good. So basically, yeah, that's that.